Mark Carney has just sent one of the strongest public messages to Donald Trump since returning to politics. A calm but unmistakable "don't test us" delivered right in the middle of an international forum. And the way he did it was classic Carney, measured, strategic, and sharp enough that Trump's team will immediately understand who the message was meant for.
So what's your game plan for managing Mr. Trump?
Wow, okay. Look at the 21 minutes. I'll be able to swing that, stretch this out.
It's time for another adjacent answer.
Exactly. No, the game, but look, I think the first thing is one, respect, but not obsequiousness, right?
Prime Minister Mark Carney didn't need to shout, provoke, or stage a confrontation. In a rare, unusually candid conversation about managing world leaders, Carney delivered something far more potent than a diplomatic answer. He issued a subtle but unmistakably firm warning to Washington. Canada will cooperate, but Canada will not submit. Not after a year of unpredictable tariffs, not after months of economic coercion, and not in an era where the United States has become a destabilizing force in the global trading system. This was the first time Carney publicly described how he manages Trump, and the tone was sharper than anything we have heard from a Canadian Prime Minister in years. Speaking in Sydney during a public forum at the Lowy Institute, Carney was asked, "What's your game plan for managing Mr. Trump?" Most expected a cautious, diplomatic reply. Instead, Carney laid out a philosophy of leadership that simultaneously acknowledged Trump's power and rejected the idea that Canada must bend to it. He stressed respect, but not obsequiousness. In other words, the age of Canadian leaders quietly absorbing American pressure is over. Carney then explained that Trump responds best to direct and consistent communication in private. But the real message came when he described the importance of choosing public words carefully and not making claims you cannot back up. It was a gentle reminder that Canada will no longer be pushed around through televised threats or surprise tariff announcements. The conversation shifted when Carney described his first meeting with Xi Jinping. Xi told him, in essence, "Don't lecture me, don't grandstand in public, and don't escalate in front of an audience. Bring issues privately and deal with them directly." By repeating this story on a Western stage, Carney made it clear he expects the same principle to apply in all directions, including south of the border. From there, he outlined Canada's reset with China, its renewed partnership with India, and its deepening strategic ties with Australia. The implication was unmistakable. Canada is diversifying away from unpredictable partners. And without saying the name United States, everyone understood exactly which partner had become unreliable.
Monetizing their current indispensable position in a variety of economic relationships, virtually all economic relationships. You can do that for a time, but you can't do that forever. Because the reaction, and we're seeing it start to play out, is people need to diversify.
Carney's remarks land in a moment when Canada has already absorbed months of economic shock from Trump's second-term agenda. Tariffs have disrupted Ontario's auto industry, reshaped investment flows, and triggered consumer boycotts across both borders. The trade relationship that once accounted for hundreds of billions annually suddenly operates under political threat. Against this backdrop, Carney's tone marked a shift. He was no longer speaking like the head of a country trying to appease a volatile neighbor. He was speaking like a leader who is building insulation economically, diplomatically, and strategically against American unpredictability. His line about respect but not obsequiousness wasn't rhetorical flourish. It was a declaration that Canada will not play a subordinate role when the United States chooses chaos over stability. Carney's approach signals a Canada that is no longer willing to rely on U.S. goodwill to protect supply chains or national interests. Instead, he is constructing leverage and doing so in a way that Trump cannot easily counter. Carney made this clear when he walked through Canada's new partnerships. Australia has become a central pillar, with cooperation stretching from critical minerals and clean energy to naval security and AI. This matters because minerals like lithium and nickel are the backbone of the technologies that define this decade. By aligning with Australia, Canada helps shape a non-U.S. industrial base that can operate even when Washington destabilizes markets with sudden tariff swings. Then there is India, now the world's fastest-growing major economy. After a period of diplomatic tension, Carney's visit produced a complete reset. Both sides fast-tracked trade discussions, expanded defense dialogue, and explored major cooperation in clean energy and advanced technology. For Canada, this opens a path toward Asian markets without relying on American approval. For India, it reduces dependence on China while strengthening ties with a G7 democracy. On China, Carney was remarkably pragmatic. He pointed out that Canada's economic integration with China is far lower than that of many Western countries, which gives Ottawa more flexibility. Cooperation will focus on areas where the risk is low and the benefit high, such as agriculture or selective clean energy cooperation. The lesson is simple. Canada is not aligning with China. Canada is diversifying and doing so in a way that reduces its exposure to U.S. volatility. Together, these moves create a quiet revolution in Canadian foreign policy. Canada is building an alliance web that no longer centers on Washington. For Trump, who has used tariffs and threats as tools of influence, this is a strategic setback. For Canada, it is a long overdue liberation.
Carney also made an unusually direct point about defense. Canada will double military spending and reach 5% of GDP by 2035, with enormous investment in cyber defense, AI systems, maritime security, and infrastructure resilience. This is not symbolic spending meant to satisfy NATO speeches. It is a structural redesign of Canadian security. For decades, American governments have used defense dependence as leverage in trade negotiations. A more self-sufficient Canadian military reduces that leverage. It ensures that Canada can defend the Arctic, protect Pacific corridors, and operate alongside allies like Australia and Japan without needing U.S. permission or hardware. Trump's strategy has always relied on pressure points. Carney is quietly removing them.
Trump thrives on drama, spectacle, and public confrontation. Carney's strategy rejects all three. By handling disagreements privately, speaking moderately in public, and building alliances behind the scenes, Carney makes it harder for Trump to gain political advantage by attacking Canada. Instead of feeding the spectacle, Carney deprives it of oxygen. This is not weakness, it is insulation. It is how you manage an unpredictable superpower without letting your country get dragged into the chaos. Carney's remarks were far more than a diplomatic anecdote. They marked the arrival of a new Canadian posture, confident, independent, and unwilling to be pressured by any great power, including the United States. His message to Trump was delivered without theatrics, but it was unmistakable. Canada will respect America, but Canada will not be bullied. Not on trade, not on strategy, not on national sovereignty. And the deeper question now is whether Washington realizes what is slipping away. Because while Trump repeats his old tactics, Canada is building new alliances, expanding its defense capability, and anchoring itself in a world no longer defined by American dominance. For the first time in decades, Canada is not waiting for U.S. leadership. Canada is setting its own course, and the United States will have to adjust.
With the salaries and the benefits, which is long overdue, so thank you for your patience on that. But then scaling up the actual material even more broadly, and it's more than $80 billion over the next 5 years. We're going to focus. This is what we can control. That's kind of the core message. Is yes, we've got to negotiate with the Americans and all that stuff.
Canada's new national budget isn't staying on paper. It's already shaping the real world. During a visit to a medical simulation center in Ottawa, Prime Minister Mark Carney demonstrated exactly how billions in new healthcare funding are transforming frontline training. From bedside ultrasound to high-precision laparoscopic simulators, the visit provided a real-time look at how Canada's healthcare system is beginning to rebuild after years of strain. Throughout the tour, Carney engaged directly with trainees, instructors, and emergency physicians. The footage shows him asking about diagnostic tools, learning how portable ultrasound devices have become essential in emergency care, and testing a laparoscopic simulator used to practice complex procedures safely. He even participated in a blood pressure demonstration, as trainees explained how modern devices streamline assessments. The interactions are informal and hands-on, revealing how rapidly medical training is evolving. Physicians describe how skills once limited to specialists are now standard for new graduates, while instructors emphasize how simulation enhances safety by allowing repeated practice. Carney's curiosity and active involvement make the visit more than ceremonial. It becomes a clear illustration of why investment in training and technology matters. The overall tone signals a shift. Canada is confronting healthcare pressure with practical upgrades, not abstract discussions. This facility tour is a deliberate choice. It highlights why the new national budget dedicates massive, sustained resources to healthcare staff, salaries, technology, and education. During conversations with staff, Carney points out that salary improvements and benefit increases were long overdue, reinforcing the message that retaining talent requires long-term financial stability. His emphasis on predictable funding aligns with the government's broader strategy, giving hospitals, training centers, and medical schools confidence to plan further ahead than one funding cycle. For years, Canada's healthcare challenges stemmed from chronic underinvestment in training capacity and outdated equipment. By highlighting frontline tools and real-world skill development, the government signals that the budget is the beginning of a systemic rebuild. Conversations throughout Carney's tour make Canada's broader strategy unmistakably clear. Every interaction points to the same conclusion. The country is modernizing its healthcare workforce by elevating both training standards and technological capability. Physicians emphasize how bedside ultrasound, once confined to specialists, has become a core skill for new emergency doctors. Instructors explain how simulation-based learning dramatically improves safety, allowing students to rehearse high-risk procedures until they reach full confidence. Carney's active participation underscores the government's message that modernizing training is central to the budget. His willingness to try simulators and ask technical questions signals that healthcare renewal cannot wait, and that technology-driven training will define the next generation of Canadian clinicians. Politically, the visit comes at a crucial moment. Canadians are frustrated with long wait times, crowded ERs, and difficulties accessing family doctors, and the government needs to show progress that people can see. By highlighting a training center already benefiting from the budget, Carney presents a narrative of action rather than promises. His direct engagement helps frame the investment as practical and immediate, not distant or theoretical. The visit also reinforces a broader argument that healthcare modernization is tied to national resilience. A capable, well-equipped workforce strengthens productivity and stabilizes essential services. By grounding this message in real-world examples rather than political language, the government positions healthcare rebuilding as a central pillar of Canada's future. What appears to be a simple tour is, in reality, a window into the philosophy behind Canada's most consequential budget in years. Carney isn't just announcing funding, he is showing how that funding transforms training, technology, and the skills pipeline that keeps the system running. Equipment is arriving, training is scaling, and investment has begun. The real test is whether Canada can expand these efforts fast enough to meet nationwide demand. The foundation is finally being rebuilt, and the next steps will determine whether Canada's healthcare system can turn a corner after years of crisis.